Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm going to talk about the books that I read in the month of October in this video. Originally, I was going to participate in the Fortnite Frights readathon, but since I'm a chronic mood reader and I have a terrible tendency to never follow TBRs at all, I ended up just keeping the compendium for future reference because there's so many wonderful world literature and diverse fiction and with spookier themes on that list, so I'll link that down below if the page is still up. But other than that, yeah, this was a really good reading month for me. Most of the books this month were 4 or 5 stars. And how I'll organize this video is I'll start off with the books that I DNF'd and then work my way up rating system wise. Okay, so I had 2 books that I DNF'd this month. The first book that I read, well, no, I didn't read this book first, but the first book that I DNF'd this month was Her Body and Other Parties by Carmen Maria Machado. And it's a collection of short stories ranging around, of course, the female body. And it has some horror elements. There's a queer rep in this book. And yeah, okay, this book didn't really work for me as I had originally hoped, because I feel like, okay, so for instance, the first story starts off with a lady who wears a green ribbon around her life, around her neck, her entire life, and it ends with her taking, it off. I don't know if that's a spoiler or not, but I feel like reading that story, I was really trying to search for the context and the significance and any of those themes that are usually in, stories like this, right? And I just ended up feeling very unfulfilled. And also, Machado's writing style is very unique in a way, how she convey things. Like, for example, there's just pages talking about what's in the character's refrigerator, and I was just really trying to see the significance of all of this and link it back to a bigger picture of what she was wishing to convey. And yeah, you're probably thinking, oh Maya, this is a case of a book being smarter than me. Well, maybe that's true. Yeah, I'm not very smart. But other than that, I was like, no, there definitely has to be something wrong here. And so I looked through some reviews, and I'm not the only one who feels that Machado's execution, whether that be through her writing or how she formatted the book, it just didn't really work for a few people. And I guess I'm just one of those people, so I just DNF'd it at about 30%. Yeah, I DNF'd one other book this month, probably for a similar reason, and that was Affinity by Sarah Waters. And I've wanted to read Sarah Waters stuff for a very long time, because not only does she just have an amazing writing style from the snippets that I've read from her, there's a lot of LGBT representation in her books as well. And so but the thing is, the reason why I didn't continue with Affinity wasn't because of her writing style or the premise or anything. It's mainly because I just think this month wasn't the month for me to read unweirdly formatted books. To my knowledge, Affinity centers around a woman who visits a prison, and she kindles an attraction to an inmate there. And so the story ranges between them exchanging letters and other means of communication. And, because of that, the book isn't very linearly formatted. And I just think, well, this wasn't the month for me to read books like that, because I DNF'd it as soon as I saw that. And I was like, oh, well, maybe another time when my mood is correct. Or I'll just pick up one of her other works, like Tipping the Velvet. And I think I have another book by her. I forgot the title. It's not coming to me. But yeah, unfortunately, those were my DNFs. From here on are my 4-star reads. I don't know what that was, but okay. But yeah, so the next book that this was the first book I actually read this month. It was The Gilda Stories by Joelle Gomez. And let me tell you, I don't understand why nobody knows about this book or no one talks about this book, because it is amazing. The Gilda story centers around a young girl who was previously enslaved and her life when she is growing into becoming a vampire. And so in this book you have not only people of color, there's a black female protagonist, there's also a queer rep in this book as well. Like, what more could booktube or people want? Sapphic vampires, like, wow. And just the way that Gomez portrays her vampires as having the ability to seep into the minds of people and change their will and their ambitions and grow a bond with whoever they may feed from. The process of turning into a vampire I found to be very intimate and beautifully portrayed in her writing, and I just want more people to talk about this book because it's so beautiful, and I'm so pissed off that this is a book I borrowed from my library, because there's instances in this book, just the dialogue exchange between the main character Gilda and a bird, who is another main character in this book, or just was just so beautiful to me. And yeah, I would call this a romance, even though it's not the center of the book, but there are a lot of romantic themes in this book. And if not that, there's a found family trope in this book as well, and just the way that Gomez conveys the relationship between these characters to me was very intimate and touching. The next 4-star book I read this month was a graphic novel, or a manga. It's a manga. It's Tomie by Junji Ito. And I'll admit, this is one of the first books that I've actually like sat down and read of his. I've heard of him, you know, for a very long time, as I'm a person who loves manga and anime. And I just loved it. And if you don't know already what Tomie is about, it's about a girl who is so dangerously beautiful to the point that anyone that she comes in contact with, the people that she's surrounded by, they go mad, either out of rage at her beauty, her jealousy, or just the way she is. She's kind of insufferable, and I just loved it so much. My other friends read it with me too, and they were like, this is the craziest stuff I've ever read in my life. And I just ate it up. It was so gruesome. I love Ito's art style. There's some complaints that it gets repetitive, but I feel like every story builds up on top of each other, because I slowly feel that, like, how everyone else in the story was going mad because of how Tomie is, you the reader eventually start to grow mad because of how Tomie is. You have such a rage and mixed feelings towards her, and I think that, you know, the repetition, the stories back to back like that, that was very intentional, and it worked. I love Tomie. I think she's amazing. Yeah, does she deserve to die? Yeah, I think so too. And I can't wait to read more of his works. And to my knowledge, she came out with a new book called Venus in the, sorry, let me verify real quick. Venus in the Blind Spot. And I saw that at my local comic book store recently, and I'm tempted to pick that up and check that out as well. The next book that I read this month was Eye of the World by Robert Jordan, and let me tell you about this book. It's probably the biggest book I've read in my entire life, which says something about probably me, but it took me a whole month to read. It actually took me, because I started it at around October 4th, and I actually finished it a few days ago, but I really wanted to include this in my wrap-up video because, man, this book is a journey, and I have no way of conveying adequately what happened in this book. But long story short, you're following a group of people and their journey to this place where they're supposed to learn more about themselves, learn more about the magic system, and how, and their role in the pattern, which is kind of like the fate of the world. That's how I'm interpreting it. And this story could really be boiled down to a cat and mouse chase. So you have the mice being, you know, our main characters. You have Rand, Perrin, Matt, Ugwen, Neve? Oh my god, Wheel of Time fans, I'm so sorry. I don't know how to pronounce their names. I've been too scared to Google anything because I don't want spoilers. But yes, so you have all of the crew and they're trying to get to this place, but you have dark friends, you have Trollocs, you have Fades, and other creatures that are, and people that are trying to lead them astray and lead them into the dark one, and so they could be, you know, tainted by the darkness. And of course that can't happen, not yet. This is a 15-book series, and it was so anxiety inducing, because you grow over this 800 pages, you grow so connected to the characters. Most of them, the Edmondsfield people, who are the teenagers, they're so young and they don't know anything really, because they're from the country, and you just don't want anything bad to happen to them ever. And so I grew very attached. It was heart-throbbing. I can't wait to start The Great Hunt, which is the second book in the series, in the next week or so. And I actually want to do a whole video dedicated to my review on Eye of the World and the other two 3 books in the series of The Wheel of Time. So I'm gonna end it right here, but it was amazing. I rated it 4 stars. I can't wait to dive in to see how our characters grow up and see how strong they can become. In 5-star category. And my 5-star books for this month are probably incredibly unexpected. And so the first book that I read that was 5 stars this month was Perfume by Patrick Suskind. And oh my god, I read this book in all one night. So basically it follows a guy who has a very acute sense of smell, and basically his smell is so great that it's his another set of eyes, and he eventually grows on to be perhaps the best perfumer in all of Europe. But of course, naturally, as the title of the book lends itself to, he starts to use his sniffing senses, his smell, for more dark uses. And I loved it. It was so gruesome. I feel like a lot of people are like, oh, this is a horror, oh, this is a thriller, but I feel there's certain parts of the book where Suskind's writing style and just the way he described things and his narration, it was comedic. It was really funny. There's some parts that I was laughing despite what was happening because of the way it was conveyed sometimes. And I think the translator did an excellent job with that. But with that being said, I kind of did slog through the middle part of the book, which was a part where basically Grenouille, I'm sorry, my French is not up to par. He goes insane because of his sense of smell and how overwhelming it's become. But I don't want to spoil anymore. But the reason why this book was a 5-star for me was the ending. It was just perfect. It was horrific. It was gruesome. It was a wonderful twist, and that alone is the reason why this is a 5-star book for me. The last 5-star book for me this month, which I recently read, I started it October 31st and ended it November 1st, so maybe I cheated because it's not an October read, but it's A Long Fatal Love Chase by, get this, Louisa May Alcott. Yes, that is the writer of Little Women and Little Men. Yeah, I did read those when I was a child and I really don't remember them. But let me tell you about this story that no one talks about. So, A Long Fatal Love Chase follows the story of Rosamond, who's an 18-year-old, and her romance with Philippe Tempest, who is, I believe, over 30. So that's a content warning already. If age gaps of that kind disturb you, this isn't the book for you. And so it's like Rosamond has such a lust for adventure, and Tempest, who is a man with many dark secrets, and he's often equated to the devil in this book because of just how he is. They're not fated to be. And Rosamond, who's actually very smart despite her naivety sometimes, she starts to run away from Philip all over Europe to the point where she's like, dressing as a boy, pretending to be people's daughters, or even, converting into a convent to be a nun. And I don't think I can adequately describe my feelings towards this book because I just felt so much. First of all, it made me cry. There's another character that Rosamond meets in this book that I just love so much, and the relationship that these two share was just so tender, and the devotion that they had for one another was excellently portrayed in Alcott's writing. And I also love Alcott's writing a lot. It's very Victorian-esque, very classic-like, but very easy to understand. And I loved every single page, every moment of this book. I cried at the end, especially. The twist it's a tragedy. I'm just going to put it out there. It's a tragedy. I hope that's not a spoiler, but it's amazing. And I think that people that want to read classics that are romantic, should really pick up this book. I don't know why. It also gave me Pride and Prejudice feelings a little bit, and Pride and Prejudice is my favorite classic. So, I don't know. That's just me. About to show the book, A Long Fatal Love Chase. It's from my library. A lot of these books in this video were from my school library, which breaks my heart because I loved most of them, and I have a lot of book shopping to do, even though I bought a lot of books and I need to get to those very quickly. So yeah, thank you for watching my video. If you've got this far, perhaps like, comment, or subscribe. I also have a blog post where I talk more about these books, perhaps in a more succinct manner, linked down below. I just wanted to put the video up also because maybe it's easier for people to, see and hear rather than read a very long blog post about my thoughts on these books. And so, yeah, thank you for watching. I will see you probably in a few days.